Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's session. The topic today is Exchange, most specifically Exchange Server SE. It's here, it's finally arrived, and we're going to help you answer the question, is your email strategy ready? Certainly give you some food for thought if you haven't, to this date, given it much thought at all. My name is James Wayne. I am the Senior Product Marketing Manager here at Exclaimer. I'm going to be your host for what we hope to be a very informative session, certainly timely, because let's be clear, Microsoft is now making a very hard pivot in how on-premise Exchange is delivered and supported. It's a change that's going to affect a lot of things, business continuity, certainly licensing, definitely security, really every process that we can tie to email infrastructure. Starting in July of this year, they're going to be releasing Exchange Server Subscription Edition or Exchange Server SE. And then about 3 months later, we're working on a very close timeline here. All support is ending for Exchange 2016, Exchange 2019, and Outlook 2016. So yes, that's a pretty tight timeline for any IT team that is still running legacy Microsoft infrastructure, especially if you haven't started looking at how this is going to affect your company. Let's be honest, you probably already have started to think about how this is affecting your company. What we hope to do today really is give you a sort of real condensed look at this upcoming task so that you can go into what is going to be an interesting couple of months with as much information as we can possibly provide. Now, this isn't, even though we're working to this close timeline, nothing comes flying out of the woodwork from Microsoft. This has been something on the cards for some time. I think it was back in 2020 when Microsoft announced their intentions for a subscription model version of Exchange. Back then, it was known as vNext, I believe. It was at that time that they announced the end of support for all of those solutions as mentioned at the same time. Plans didn't work out exactly at that time as Microsoft intended. Only next year, they were confronted with a series of state-sponsored attacks that really changed the landscape at the time. It was in 2020 then that they said, no, we're pausing for the time being. vNext disappeared, but they said at that time in 2020, Exchange Server SE is coming in 2024, 2025, and here we are today. So it is something we've known about, and there's therefore quite a lot of information that we are going to hopefully convey today about some of the things you should be mindful of. We know that there are many organizations out there that are still reliant on on-prem or hybrid setups. And with that comes a mix of dependencies, email flow, email signature management, the legal disclaimers that go alongside those signatures on those emails, client compatibility. It's all really tightly connected to how Exchange is running behind the scenes. And I guess that's really what this session is all about, a clear overview of what Microsoft's changing, why it all matters, and what it means for you. So to help that conversation, I am joined by two colleagues who work directly with IT professionals like yourself who are dealing with Exchange on a daily basis. And that is Roy Liu, who is our head of technical support. He's worked closely with organizations navigating Microsoft changes in his past. And then Adam McDougall as well, who is our customer success team leader, who is supporting customers moving from on-prem to cloud, basically on a daily basis. So two experts that we've pulled from our ranks to host this conversation. Roy, nice to have you here. Let's pick up from there. As I said, a lot is changing about how Microsoft is handling Exchange. Can you now take us through what that looks like?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, James, and hi, everyone. It's really great to be here. So here's the headline. Microsoft is moving away from traditional long-term support cycles and perpetual licensing. Starting in July 2025, they'll launch Exchange Server Subscription Edition, a mouthful, and we call it SE for short. Then just 3 months later, support officially ends for Exchange 2016, 2019, and Outlook 2016. Like James said. That gives IT teams a really tight window to make some big decisions. And unfortunately, there's no snooze button for this one.
Indeed. It's safe to say that this isn't just what perhaps people might be more accustomed to, a cumulative update. It's a completely new model entirely, right?
Yeah, that's right. Exchange SE isn't just the next version. It's really a shift on how the platform is maintained. It moves to Microsoft's modern lifecycle model, which means no more fixed end of life dates that we're used to. Instead, you get two cumulative updates per year, and staying supported means keeping pace. You got to be on either the latest CU or the one behind. If you fall further behind, you're no longer supported, even if the server is technically up and running.
And that's obviously a pretty massive change on how IT teams are going to have to approach patching, change control, just long-term planning in general, right?
Yeah, exactly. You're now responsible for staying aligned with Microsoft's release cadence. You have to treat patching like an active process, not just like a one-off project for things like this. For teams used to letting Exchange run quietly in the background, which I've done myself, this has been a big cultural shift. It requires more frequent planning, testing, and deployment.
And so perhaps we can get a bit specific here. What do you think that means, or what might that look like, perhaps, from a licensing standpoint?
Uh, it's another big shift. You can't buy SE outright, and you have to be really careful of. You have to be really forward thinking. You have to have active software assurance or qualifying Microsoft 365 subscription tied to every user accessing the server. That includes hybrid setups. The old model where you could run hybrid with just a free hybrid license, that's gone. Every hybrid mail flow now requires a paid entitlement per user.
I mean, I can immediately see how that's going to catch some people off guard, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. It definitely will. A lot of organizations have relied on hybrid for years without fully licensing every user. I mean, that was kind of like the de facto standard. But under SE, Microsoft is enforcing strict licensing coverage across the board. No exceptions for migration staging or partial use.
And I'm going to go out on a limb and suggest that this is likely tied to price rises as well.
Yeah, again, you're right. When SE launches, Microsoft is increasing prices across the board. Um, I believe it's like 10% on the Exchange server license itself, 15% on core CALs, and 20% on enterprise CALs. When you look at the total cost of ownership, Microsoft 365 becomes a much more attractive and predictable option for most organizations.
Yeah, so I guess this is them really stating for the record, we think that Microsoft 365 is the most suitable option for the majority of our customers, and Exchange SE becomes something that's a little bit more niche, perhaps, in that
Definitely,
instance.
for
Cool.
sure.
Okay, well let's maybe turn our attention away from licensing and think about uh, things from a technical perspective. How different is SE Server Edition, Subscription Edition? God, here I am. I hate Anagram. How different is Subscription Edition from what customers are already used to?
Good question. The first release of SE, what Microsoft's calling vNext RTM, it's functionally identical to Exchange 2019 CU15. It's the same infrastructure, uses the same administrative tools, and supports the same coexistence rules. That's nice and everything, but the alignment won't last. Once CU1 ships, which should be later 2025, SE will begin to diverge, and that's where the differences will really start to matter.
Well, I guess there's comfort in knowing things are going to be familiar, at least initially, but what sort of changes can people expect once those cumulative updates start? What are we talking about?
Okay, let's see. So NTLM is being replaced with Kerberos authentication for backend authentication. A new REST-based admin API will begin to replace remote PowerShell. Outlook Anywhere, RPC over HTTP is being deprecated. And most importantly of all, coexistence with Exchange 2016 and 2013 is going to be blocked. So the last one is key. If you're planning on running SE alongside older versions, that window to do that, there's not a big window for that.
Right. So anybody who has hopes to phase in SE gradually over time needs to be uh, aware of that drop dead date. Otherwise, they're going to hit a wall.
Yeah, exactly. Once CU1 is released, it won't install if older versions are still present in the environment. That means the gradual migration approach that's worked really well in the past, that's not going to work anymore. You have to plan for a clean, well-coordinated transition. Again, like I said before, you have to be really forward-thinking and really plan everything out to the very end. No half measures.
Yeah. Well, that's amazing. That's great detail. Let's turn our attention, if we may, away from Exchange just for a moment. Let's talk about Outlook, Outlook 2016. What's happening there?
That's another critical point, James. It's already out of support for Microsoft 365. Microsoft stopped testing and patching it, so it's the dead product. Uh, October 2025, Outlook 2016 will be fully out of support, even with on-prem Exchange. Older Outlook clients will increasingly run into compatibility issues, and what works today might not work tomorrow, and might not often turns into definitely doesn't at the worst possible times. Murphy's Law.
Yeah, too true. Uh, so that means, I guess, that in an ideal world, server upgrades and client upgrades are going to be happening concurrently. They're going to happen in parallel. Is that right?
Yes, exactly. If you're upgrading your Exchange servers but leaving, outdated clients in place, you're going to run into issues. Newer versions of Exchange won't support old Outlook builds, and Microsoft is going to be blocking unsupported clients altogether. So the gap between what's deployed and what's being supported will only widen, and that's where a lot of unexpected breakages tend to happen.
Cool. Well, thanks, Roy. That's amazing. We've talked about what's changing. Let's talk about in the face of all of those changes, what are the risks if IT teams decide to hold off? Like this is obviously sounding, or at least beginning to sound like an awful lot of work. What is the actual risk of standing still here?
There's quite a few, to be honest. The most immediate is support. Once Exchange 2016 and 2019 reach end of life, excuse me, Microsoft is going to stop providing security updates and bug fixes. So if a vulnerability is discovered or something breaks, mail flow, database corruption, you're on your own. And it's not a great place to be when email is still one of your most critical systems.
Yeah, I suppose we're talking about real operational hazard, a risk here, um, and it's one of those things that, I mean, we've all experienced this. You don't feel the pain until something goes wrong, and then you feel it really, really hard.
Yeah, definitely. These systems, you set them and you let them run quietly in the background until one day they don't. When that day comes, they tend to fail hard at the worst time. And what makes it worse is because you're unsupported now, even vendors like us, we have limited options for helping you. We can't really do much if the issue traces back to something that Microsoft no longer supports.
But I guess it's not just support, right? That's a piece of the puzzle, but there's compliance. That's a piece too.
Oh yeah, huge piece. A lot of organizations, especially in the regulated industries like healthcare and legal and finance, they have to demonstrate that they're using, supported software as part of their security posture. Unsupported servers don't pass audits. They tend to miss out on newer controls like updated TLS protocols or, hardened authentication requirements. Staying on an unsupported platform can mean you're out of step with your own internal security policies too. And once that happens, it's a snowball effect. Once those gaps are flagged, suddenly the migration you're putting off becomes a fire drill.
Yeah, I mean, I know we've seen that before here at Exclaimer, teams that we've encountered who have had to accelerate a migration that they'd planned out, and they had this really in detail process starting to form, and suddenly they're having to squeeze that nice thing they were taking a year to do into a couple of months.
Yeah, yeah. Unfortunately, that's happened. I've had first-hand accounts of that when in my IT career. But yeah, those fast track projects are rarely smooth. Planning gets rushed, testing gets skipped, and you're essentially forced to rebuild the plane mid-flight. It's stressful, and it only increases the chances of something being missed, chances of issues during or after the migration.
Yeah, and also it's just not a comfort. Nobody wants that amount of pressure to have to complete something
No.
in that time, right? Okay, okay. What about impact on other systems? Are there going to be compatibility issues, for example, that come up?
Yeah, especially in hybrid environments, James. Once Exchange SECU1 rolls out and legacy coexistence breaks, any systems that are depending on routing through older versions of Exchange are at risk. This also includes third-party tools like backup software, mobile sync services, email signature solutions like Exclaimer. Think of it like an unpatched app with admin access to your network. It might run, but it's also a door that never locks. We've seen Outlook clients stop syncing, calendar sharing fail, mail routing break, and it's all tied to unsupported Exchange builds, just sitting in production.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, it's not always Exchange that breaks, right? It is Exchange is this uh, big piece of software that we think about, but there's so many things that might tie into it that we have to be mindful of here too. Even tools that have sat there forgotten that we didn't
Yes.
realize were as important as they are. Um,
Yeah.
uh, do you think it's the things that are connected to it that people need to be most mindful of almost?
Yeah, absolutely. You hit the nail on the head. It's the email, like you said, sits at the center of most organizations. So when that starts failing, it creates downstream effects, uh, missed messages, non-compliant disclaimers, broken calendar invites, slow logins. These symptoms, they often start, they're very subtle at first until they aren't. And that's what makes it risky. You're not always aware of what's stopping, of what's not working until someone flags it. If I were to sum this up simply, staying still creates technical debt. The longer you wait, the more constraints you carry forward. Like I said earlier, the snowball effect, and that fewer options means when you finally ready to act, the tools that you rely on might already be behind where Microsoft's taken the platform.
Mm. And I guess, I mean, we've been hinting at it, but this does become where we as a vendor intersect. We, as a solution for Exchange, that's historically where we existed. We have customers who are still on our on-prem signature manager software. What might it mean for those customers?
our on-prem software was built in a very very different Microsoft era. It relies on very specific transport rules and server configurations that Microsoft is obviously phasing out. So as SE becomes standard, when Microsoft drops support for the old ways of doing things, the gaps between what technically works and what's fully supported grows. Eventually, those setups become fragile, and that's where the problem starts because the environment around them is no longer supported.
Okay. I think that's a great summary and something I hope if there are any listeners that you remain mindful of. Okay, so thus far we have really focused in on the risks associated with sticking with unsupported infrastructure. Let's change that. Let's become optimists, right? Let's think about the positives. What do IT teams gain when they take the route of cloud? And to help me be an optimist, I have one of the best optimists I know, Adam. Thanks for joining us, Adam. Taking this news about Exchange SE, what would you say are some of the intrinsic value, the real value in moving now?
Great tag in there, James. Yeah, we're all about turning that frown upside down, being real positive here. So, to answer your question, I'd say predictability. On-premise
Mm.
environments, especially hybrid ones, come with a maintenance burden that is just growing harder to justify. You're responsible for staying on top of patches, monitoring complexibility across workloads, and working around limitations that Microsoft just no longer fixes. So, in the cloud, that changes. You're handing off a large part of that overhead. From a technical standpoint, you're no longer building around static server versions. You're deploying against platforms that are current. The architecture evolves in sync with the vendor, so no longer behind it. And that reduces the number of unsupported endpoints, things like broken connectors or compatibility workarounds that you have to manage.
Mm. So I guess uh, you would say then that this isn't uh, only about cost. It's about getting out of a cycle almost of being reactive and problem solving when problem solving needs to occur, which we know is going to be a drain on the IT resource. They're going to have to step in repeatedly to fix the problems that arise from an unsupported piece of software.
Oh yeah, of course, 100%. So, oh yeah, on-premise Exchange has trained IT historically to work reactively. Things like the fix the patch, reapply the rule, update the connector. The cloud forces a mindset shift. Start designing for change. You can expect updates to happen in the background. You build on systems that continue to work when they do. Now, I want to clear that this doesn't mean less control. It just means fewer surprises and fewer nights spent figuring out which CU broke mail routing.
There is one objection I want to focus in on because we hear it quite a bit, especially from teams that have they've run their own infrastructure on premise for years. They know it inside and out, and that is this: cloud isn't secure. That moving uh, off-prem into the cloud is somehow giving up control, moving into a less secure state. How would you respond to somebody who thought that way?
It's a valid concern, and it often comes from assumptions that just don't hold up anymore. A lot of
Mm.
IT teams have built their careers managing on-premise environments. They trust them because they understand every part of them. But control doesn't always equal security. Just because something's behind your firewall doesn't mean it's any safer. Most cloud breaches don't happen because the cloud failed. They happen because it was configured badly. And that's also true for on-prem. The difference is that with the cloud, platforms are updated, patched, and secured centrally. They're tested against current threat models, and you're not really relying on forgotten Exchange 2016 server that hasn't been patched in the last, say, 2 years.
Okay, and then yeah, once you've moved fully to the cloud.
I would say you reduce your attack surface. hybrid environments, by definition, require more public exposure. You're maintaining connectors, endpoints, credentials across two systems. That's more to monitor, more to secure. In a cloud native setup, you're centralizing authorization, through things like Enter ID, formerly Azure ID. You're retiring legacy protocols and you're applying conditional access policies across them, not trying to retrofit them into an on-prem setup that wasn't designed for it.
So I guess the cloud isn't the risk. Running unsupported infrastructure is, not configuring cloud in the right way is.
Exactly, yeah, that's right. So the risk isn't where the infrastructure sits, it's how it currently is, how it's configured, and how many dependencies it's dragging behind. Staying on-prem because it feels safer often means accepting blind spots that you've learned to live with. The cloud replaces that with no models, tested controls, and far fewer exceptions to maintain.
Yeah. I mean, look, we've all been guilty, I suppose. I know I certainly have, of sticking with the familiar, right? But this is just one instance where, to your point, familiar isn't necessarily secure. You've kind of got to disconnect those two things. Okay. All right. Well, Adam, that's some great insights. The other thing that you are going to be able to help us out with here is signature management. We obviously, as I mentioned earlier, do have customers who are still using our on-premise signature manager software. And if we can turn our attention there just for a moment, for it, if there is anybody in our audience who is still making use of one of those pieces of software, where does Exchange Edition and Outlook Edition fit into everything that we've just covered?
It's really simple. It doesn't. Signature management was discontinued back in 2022 now, so it's no longer being updated, and we've stopped supporting it since 2024 now. So it's quite a while. The product may still run, but it's tied to an infrastructure that's disappearing. Exchange 2016 and 2019 are losing support. Outlook 2016, in fact, is actually already out. Microsoft Exchange SE won't support older coexistent models. That's kind of where Signature Manager hits a wall. It depends on the transport rules and routing behaviors that are being retired.
So whilst it may technically still work, it's essentially we cannot be certain that it will for much longer. As more and more changes occur, the likelihood, in fact, that it's going to keep working diminishes with those changes. And that sounds like it could be, at the very least, a risk that some IT teams might be underestimating. Is that a fair thing to say, do you think?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, it is. Signature management wasn't built for hybrid. It's designed to support Microsoft 365. And that doesn't align with Microsoft's current direction. Keeping it in place means maintaining aging email infrastructure just to support one function. Doesn't sound right, but now that's far easier to deliver than from the cloud.
So yeah, just to be clear, it's something that these on-premise solutions, they were never built for hybrid, never really truly built to support Microsoft 365 fully either. So with that in mind, what do you think the answer is for these customers?
Nice and simple, James. Move to the cloud structure. It's built
Yeah.
for Microsoft 365 and hybrid. Does everything that you need it to do. It removes the need to manage signature logic inside Exchange. You configure everything centrally and know how it will work, regardless of the device, the location, or future Microsoft changes. It updates in real time, and the outcome is consistent.
And maybe just for a second, because I think this is an important thing to state, when we launched our cloud solution, it was very clearly labeled for Microsoft 365, and perhaps there's people in our audience that are still considering, for their own reasons, to remain in a hybrid setup with Exchange Server SE and and Microsoft 365. Will it still work for those teams that are going to remain in hybrid?
Yep, we're still going to support you too. For any customers that are on there or anyone watching this back, you don't have to wait until the last mailbox moves. You can bring signature management into cloud early and run it across both environments. So that gives you a bit of flexibility. It avoids one more thing breaking when Microsoft rolls out a change that you weren't expecting.
Okay, well, that was really an amazing overview, Adam. Thanks for that. What I thought I might do for everyone in the audience now who maybe isn't familiar with our cloud solution is give a swift demonstration of what it's like to manage email signatures within Exclaimer. So what I'll do is I'll share my screen and we'll take a look at some of the functionality that is there. So this is the Exclaimer portal. It is where all of the signature management occurs. And remember, this is signature management that is compatible with Microsoft 365 and is compatible with Exchange subscription edition as well. So really, we split email signatures into a couple of different areas within our product. You can contain signatures in this signature area. These can be fully built signatures with everything that you need, the contact block, the promotional banners, the disclaimers, but we do also support breaking down those components into sections too. You can have all of your campaigns live within a campaigns area where your promotional banners are configured to run for set periods of time, set audiences. And then, of course, you would be tracking perhaps how much engagement you drive through those campaigns. We also have a new area for disclaimers too. So this is where you can control all of the legal components that your signature needs to contain, all the legal statements, the statements that your employee's opinion does not necessarily reflect your own, things like that. And again, you can be very specific here that these disclaimers apply to different parts of your organization, different teams or different departments, or in the entire organization, of course. Schedule them just like you might a banner if you need timely messaging in your disclaimers, and set to particular recipients, to particular audiences in the instances where you've got different brands or you need to operate in different languages, perhaps. We keep things really intuitive within our cloud solution. Everything's been designed to be as modern look and feel as we can realize. That means that when you start creating email signatures within Exclaimer, you are provided with a gallery of templates to design from. We refer to this as our template library. These are really designed to be simple and easy starting points for email signatures, things that you can take and enhance with your own branding, your own icons, logos, colors, and fonts. We could, for example, decide to edit this design here. That's going to take it into our drag and drop designer, which again is much more intuitive than anything we managed to accomplish within our on-premise solution. Everything is what you see is what you get. Everything is drag and drop. We really intend this to be used by absolutely anybody, even perhaps marketers or designers within the organization. So for example, we could remove a component like this bar of social media icons just by dragging it out, and we can add components, elements into our design by dragging them in from our options on the left hand side. So it's really simple to design an email signature that perfectly captures the brand and makes it appear professional, consistent, and secure. Once a signature has been designed, folks, it's super easy to get that signature deployed in the ways that you would want. What our cloud solution does is marry a couple of the things that were available in different products with our on-premise offerings. So as I go to rules here, what I want to call out is that you can still deploy signatures to as many users as you need to. So here we're going to take this email signature that we've designed and we're going to apply it to some specific, perhaps using group membership or individual email addresses. For this example, I'm just actually going to apply it to everybody. And then we can be very granular, thinking about who it is that we are applying our email signatures to. That might include integration with our CRM to make target lists that we apply signatures to, something that was never possible in our on-premise solution. We can do scheduling, make sure that those are applied for the right period of time. And then when you come to enable, this is where we are really marrying those deployment methods together. So whether you're using server side, which is integrating with the mail routing of either Exchange Online or Exchange Subscription Edition, or perhaps integrating with the latest version of Outlook. And that's really interesting because unlike the on-premise products where we had to rely on an agent running on the machine of each employee, here we can do things really nicely with an add-in in Outlook. So an actual visual representation of all of the signatures that are assigned to the user, and the user is actually able to select from the email signatures that are available. So that, folks, is a little overview of our cloud solution and what it's like to manage email signatures in our latest offering. Hopefully you can see it's really nice, really seamless, and you can get to that simple, controlled level of professionalism across all emails in a really intuitive way. That's how our cloud solution works, but I think we should go a level deeper now and talk about the real benefits that customers can expect to experience when they move away from those on-premise signature manager tools. Who wants to kick us off?
I'll take that, James.
Yeah, awesome.
Cool. Yeah. The first thing we often hear is how much easier collaboration becomes. Signature Manager was built for a different kind of IT environment, one where the templates lived on local servers and access was limited. There's a lot of difficult things with that. The cloud changes all that. Now IT and marketing can both work from the same interface. No versioning issues, no waiting for admin support. Just one system that lets teams create, update, and apply signatures across the business. Doesn't matter what time zone you are, everything is there for everyone.
Yeah, just to jump in, that also opens the door up for better customization. So you can design different signatures, for different departments, set rules by geography or the sender type, and adapt designs to reflect campaigns or regions without needing workarounds. So we've seen a lot of customers run things like A/B testing on banner designs to track engagement and adjust their approach in real time. That's just not possible when you're editing templates on a file server.
And what about controlling your brand and getting that a professional image?
On-prem gave you central control, but it was rigid. If you needed to make changes, it meant remote desktop access. And if it's not set up correctly, one person logs in, another person gets kicked out. Template edits, file pushes, usually by IT. In the cloud, it's faster and more flexible. You can deploy changes in minutes, not hours. You can create variations for departments or regions, test new layouts, and schedule updates in advance. That level of agility just wasn't possible before, unheard of.
Yeah, and you're not locked into static templates either. You can include dynamic fields, user-based content, or campaign managers that change from week to week without touching the core design. Marketing gets what they need, IT keeps in control.
Okay, and control I think is very important here. Again, we touched on earlier. Cloud can be seen as insecure. What about security and maybe access control as a component of that?
Oh yeah, there's no comparison. Cloud gives you detailed permissioning. You can decide exactly who can edit what and restrict access by role or department. And from the infrastructure side, our cloud product runs in secure Azure AD data centers around the world. Our data is encrypted in transit and at rest, and the platform is certified for SOC 2 Type 2, ISO 27001, ISO 27018, GDPR, and HIPAA.
Yeah, those definitely. And then there's the obvious benefit, less time spent maintaining systems. Signature management requires local installs, updates, patching, and all added up. With the cloud, updates are automatic. That's not something you have to worry about. That is, what we handle. New features are rolled out centrally, and you're not spending hours chasing consistency. You just focus on the content.
Yeah, and I guess as part of that, what you mentioned there, Roy, there are new features, right? This is a living, breathing product that is still being developed. Let's talk about cost. You know, I guess the thing we haven't explicitly said is that a lot of IT teams aren't going to be thrilled about Microsoft's move to a subscription-only model with Exchange SE. They are losing the option to pay once and be done with it. How does our cloud product fit into that pricing conversation?
Yeah, I can take that. I mean, the frustration there is completely valid. Losing a perpetual license feels like losing control. But with cloud, the subscription model works differently to actually give you more flexibility, not less. So let's put it in another way. So let's say you're paying for a monthly or yearly cost just to keep it stable. What you're paying for is a platform that actually keeps pace with how the Microsoft ecosphere now works. You don't have to worry about things like patches breaking, formatting, or a cumulative update wiping out transport rules.
So, whilst Microsoft's licensing shift maybe adds more to IT's plate, it removes some of that pressure. Would you agree with that, Roy? Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, I definitely would agree with that. The move to cloud means you're not spending time chasing inconsistencies or troubleshooting issues caused by changes outside your control. Like I said, with the cloud, all of that patching, updating, compliance is all handled for you. And you're just managing signatures in one place through a platform that's designed to work with Exchange Online, hybrid, and even future Microsoft updates.
Yeah, because the pricing is usage based, you don't end up over licensing or guessing what you need to pay in a year. You scale up naturally or scale down depending on how your organization evolves.
So, I guess instead of reacting again, we come back to this. Like, when you're not reacting, you're choosing, you're making a choice, and you're choosing a setup that moves on your own terms. And I guess who can complain about that? We all like to do things that we want to do, not which is dictated to us. Okay. But I hate to cut us short. This has been all very fascinating, and I certainly feel like I've learned quite a bit here today. So thank you both. I'd like to perhaps move on to some questions that we've been getting from our audience. There are a lot, so I'm really sorry if we don't get a chance to get through them all. We'll be making sure to follow up with you when we can. Okay. The first one's a doozy. We're not sure we'll meet the SE upgrade deadline. Is it worth moving signature management now? I think these guys are a existing customer on one of our on-premise products. Or should we now wait until we've sorted Exchange? Who wants to take that?
Yeah, I'm happy to say that, James. I would say definitely just don't wait. Yeah, signature management doesn't need to be tied to the rest of your infrastructure. You can move to our cloud solution now and run it across a hybrid environment, as we spoke about earlier. Yeah, Exchange on-prem and 365 together. We see teams delay because they want to finish one thing before starting the next, and email signatures are often part that breaks first, during a rush migration. So moving them early gives you more control and avoids problems later on the line.
Cool. This next one I see, Roy, is about Microsoft's modern lifecycle model, so hopefully you can answer this. What should IT teams, expect from Microsoft's modern lifecycle model? What has changed?
Yeah, that's a good question. A modern life cycle means you don't get a 10-year support lifetime. Yeah, time life anymore. Sorry, we do. I want to do that.
Yeah, no worries.
Uh,
Do you want me to feed you the question again, Roy? Are you happy just jumping in?
I can jump in. Yeah, that's fine. Modern life cycle means you don't get a 10-year support timeline anymore. Exchange SE will stay supported as long as you stay current. That means installing cumulative updates twice a year, no skipping versions indefinitely, and definitely no set it and forget it. It's more like a cloud model. It's really designed to reduce the number of unpatched, vulnerable servers. And that also raises the bar for IT operations. If you're not set up to maintain that kind of cadence, you're going to end up unsupported, even though the product technically hasn't reached end of life.
Um, what what's interesting there is like as we think about cloud model, right? I really liked your point there, raising the bar. If you're not going to be used to this, the beauty of it is that you're always supported. It just goes. You've got this infinite horizon almost. I think that's a really interesting way of thinking about what the benefits to the modern life cycle are. Is just that freedom, that scope to sit there and go, actually, we're not on this clicking clock of a bomb that's going to go off in 5 years' time, 10 years' time, where we're going to have this big piece of work that we're going to have to complete all of a sudden.
Definitely, it's
Um,
very fluid.
yeah, fluid. That's another great way of looking at it. Okay. Um, this is really interesting. And I'm going to ask you to be a bit of a fortune teller, I'm afraid, Roy, on this one. What's Microsoft's long-term direction for on-prem Exchange? I think there's a bit of fear here, Matt, maybe. Should we expect another major version after SE?
Yeah, I mean, kind of given with Microsoft, you don't really need a crystal ball for this one. They're pretty clear. Exchange SE is versionless. It's designed for continuous updates, not major new releases. There's no mention of Exchange 2028 or even 2030, and I really wouldn't hold my breath. That doesn't mean they're going to pull support overnight, though. They're just encouraging cloud adoption. We're seeing that in the product strategy, higher pricing for on-prem, no more perpetual licenses, and now features are being rolled out cloud exclusive. If you're staying on-prem, you have to maintain Exchange SE really aggressively. But longer term, most organizations should really be planning for the cloud.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. A few more. As I said, we have a lot of questions. What are the actual security risks of running Exchange 2016 or 2019 after the support cutoff? I want us to be very specific here, I suppose, if we can.
Yeah, I'm happy to continue my more negative outset. But yeah, once support ends, the systems stop receiving patches, including security updates, and that effectively turns every new vulnerability into a potential permanent 0-day. Exchange has been a popular target over the years. I think proxy logon, Hafnium, to name a few. So staying on an unsupported version means better betting your security on software that attackers know inside and out. Running 2016 or 2019 past the deadline really puts your whole network at risk. Attackers often use Exchange as a launch pad for larger attacks across the environment. And it's not just an email problem; it's an entry point into your systems. From a security perspective, it's the safest move is to really get off unsupported software before it becomes a liability, and this applies to all software, not just Exchange.
Mhm. Yep. Thank you. It does sound doom and gloom, but I think we do have to be realistic, right? With what the ramifications are. So thank you. Um, Another question. What do we really lose by staying on our signature manager product? If it is still technically working and I only need it to apply signatures, what's the risk?
Um, yeah, I mean, it might still work, but we're seeing more cases where exchange updates or transport rule changes break how it functions. And since the product isn't maintained, there's no fix, unfortunately. We'd love to help, but there's no real way. It's a risk. There's when signatures stop applying, disclaimers go missing, or formatting breaks. IT gets the call, and there's no easy solution. Moving to the cloud eliminates that fragility and gives you a future-proof platform with ongoing support, better design tools, and most importantly, a lot less stress.
We do like less stress, Roy. That is something I think we can all take away as a benefit. I don't think really any more needs to be said. Uh, how does licensing work for your cloud product in a hybrid environment? Are we paying for both sides? Adam, can you take that on?
Yeah, no problem. So to answer the question, it's no, really. So licensing is user-based, not platform-based. You only pay for users who need the signatures, regardless whether they're from on-prem or Exchange Online or actually in both. So we use Entra ID to sync, uh, manage identities. Once a user is licensed, the system applies the right signature logic wherever their email is sent from. So there's really no need to buy license by server or maintain separate instances.
Mm. Yep. Okay. I'm going to start cracking through some of these because I want to make sure everyone gets away on time. What typically can hold customers back from making the move, and what helps things get moving?
I can take that one, James. That's usually two things: resource resource constraints and perceived complexity. IT knows it's time, but the team's already stretched thin, as they often are, and they're worried it'll take weeks to deploy. What helps is really showing how fast it can go. Most customers are up and running in a few days. We've got a structured onboarding process, great technical support, and the best practice templates. Once it's live, it's less work so that the teams can free up time rather than losing it.
Okay. Um, we've customized a lot of internal mail flow rules. Will those conflict with Exclaimer in the cloud?
Not usually. It's something we usually check during onboarding. We route mail through a secure connector in Microsoft 365 or Exchange. And if there's pre-existing rules that modify headers or redirect mail, we'll flag that early. The goal is to preserve what's working while introducing central signature control. We've seen nearly every scenario at this point, and so our team can really help map out what needs adjusting and what can stay. Trust us, we're the experts.
Yeah. I think we must have seen everything by now. So, certainly, there are very few surprises left out there for us. Um, Adam, what reporting and analytics are available in your cloud platform?
Oh, good question. Lots actually. Yeah, you do get full visibility into signature performance, especially if you're using things like banners or CTAs. You can track engagement across multiple campaigns, compare versions, see what's working, what isn't working well. And it's worth noting as well that you don't get any of that within signature. So it's not just usage stats, though. We offer actual performance data that you can share with other teams, such as marketing or compliance, to again really show value back into the business.
Okay. Will Exchange SE require any changes to Active Directory or existing domain architecture?
Not at the domain architecture level, but you'll definitely want to check your environment against, modern configuration standards. SE is going to expect secure defaults like Kerberos for server auth, TLS 1.2, and stronger Cypher suites. If your domain policies are still fine-tuned for legacy services or older protocols, I could see that causing issues down the line. Honestly, now is a good time to really review your AD hygiene and make sure your security posture is up to date. It's going to make everything easier.
Nice. Is Microsoft planning to include any new feature development in Exchange SE, or is it just bug fixes and security updates?
Yeah, I'm happy to take that. So Microsoft has said SE will follow a sustained innovation model. So that roughly means that it's not just a holding pattern. It'll get functional updates over time. They've already mentioned that a new REST-based admin API and removal of legacy components. That said, most feature development is happening in 365. SE updates will be more about keeping the platform secure, supported, and compatible. It's where innovation is being focused, and that's something to weigh in when you're deciding where to invest your time.
I do like the sound of sustained innovation. I might steal that.
That's a good one.
Yeah, we're certainly in a pattern here at Exclaimer of sustained innovation. So maybe we'll ape that. Okay, look, as I said, there are more questions. I think we'll do our best to get back to those people in due course. But I think we'll bring today's session to a close. Thank you both, Roy and Adam. Thank you for joining us. Thank you all for joining us too. As a recap, we've covered a lot today, from Microsoft Shift to Exchange Server Subscription Edition, the risks of standing still, how cloud-based signature management can help you stay ahead, and that's stay ahead and actually benefit from more without actually introducing more overhead as well. That's really important to stress. If you're using Exchange Edition or Outlook Edition today, one of our on-premise products, you want to explore what the move to cloud could look like for your setup. We are here to help. Let us know, hand raise. If you are not using an Exclaimer product and you are interested in email signature management, you can get a free trial of our cloud solution on our website, www.exclaimer.com. There is right now a link in the chat to book a one-on-one consultation. We'll walk you through what a setup or a migration might look like. We're also going to be sending a follow-up email with a full recording of this session, along with some helpful resources in the coming days. Look, if this session helped at all, if it helped to clarify what your next steps are, if you learned something that you didn't know, do let us know, because we're really always listening, and we're looking to deliver content that can make a difference to you, help you get real answers, and not just roadmaps. So thanks again for spending time with us. From me, at the very least, we will see you next time.
Thank you,
Bye for
James.
now.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you.